Hi guys, Archie Luxury channel. Guys, I want to talk to you today. It's very, very important. Men cannot live on Google ads alone. I depend on your support to keep me on YouTube full time. Guys, there's a number of ways you can help me stay on YouTube producing content. Number one, you can organize a paid review. That's right. I will make a video for US $20 minimum and I will review your collection. I'll answer a question for you. So, normally takes, about 14 days, 10 to 14 days for me to make these vids. The other thing you could do to sponsor me and help me stay full-time on YouTube is sponsor me on Patreon. Patreon allows you to pay a small amount of money, like $1, $2, $5, $10, $20, anything, any amount you want over $1, you can, and it basically sends $1 each month to me. Now, you can cancel at any time if you're sick of the show or you don't like me anymore. So guys, help keep me full-time on YouTube. Paid reviews, I do. Sponsor me on Patreon, and Patreon people get advanced screening of some videos and secret videos. Not to mention, I got advertising space on the fridge. Come on, guys, keep me full-time on YouTube.
Hello, I'm Archibald Chesterfield III, and today we're on the Archie Luxury channel discussing wristwatch dilemmas. And today I want to talk about a really interesting proposition. The Rolex Daytona versus the Breguet Type 20 chronograph. Now, this is a very interesting comparison. So we're going to compare these two fantastic chronographs, and we're going to talk about them on the Archie Luxury channel. So let's discuss it. So firstly, we've got the Rolex Daytona. The Rolex Daytona, it's been out for a long time. It's got a long history of motor racing. Paul Newman, yes, he wore the Daytona, and he went for a dial combination, which was a bit exotic, which became known as the Paul Newman Daytona. Highly collectible, highly desirable. The Paul Newman. And it's interesting. The Rolex GMT went from a 4-digit reference code to, when they went sapphire in the 80s, they went from a manual wind to an automatic, and it gained the Zenith movement. The Zenith famous for its El Primero. Well, they sold a version to Rolex, which Rolex then hand finished, and Rolex then released their own movement. So it's an interesting chain of events there. And we've got a brand like Breguet themselves there. Breguet, well, what did Rolex use in their plastic Daytonas? The Paul Newmans, well, they used a Valjoux 727. Well, guess what? Breguet, they were building a chronograph in the 1950s for the French Navy Air Force. Aeronautical, which was a division of the Navy, which later became the Air Force. They got a contract to, it was referred to as the Type XX, Type 20 contract. It needed to fit certain criteria, as the watch needed to be a certain size. It needed to have certain chronograph functions. It needed certain things. It needed to be a flyback, quite interesting. And Breguet designed this piece, and Breguet then, they everything old is new again. In the late 90s, Breguet relaunched the Type 20, and it's Breguet then became part of the Swatch Group, and it's grown from strength to strength. The interesting thing is, both these pieces, if you were to buy a Rolex Daytona, if you could get one retail, which isn't that easy, and if you were to buy a Breguet new in store, they were roughly the same price. This was pre-ceramic Daytona. pre-ceramic Rolex Daytona days. So now the Rolex Daytona is actually more money than the Breguet, but there was a point when they were eye for eye, tooth for a tooth. They were a same priced combo deal. So I think this is a great comparison, and I got a really good friend of mine in Sydney. He's a real cool guy, and he actually he's got 2 Daytona pre-ceramic, 2 steel Daytona, a white dial and a black dial. He's also got an Omega Speedmaster Man on the Moon and a Breguet Type 20. And the funny thing is, he doesn't think the Breguet is so far inferior to the Daytonas. He loves his Daytonas, but he loves his Breguet. So let's have a bit of a discussion on it if we are comparing these pieces. So I'm going to, for the argument in this video here, we're going to compare pre-ceramic steel and two-tone Daytona. We're going to compare it to the Bregster, the Breguet Type 20. And this is a very interesting comparison. We'll compare the two, and we'll see what is the better chronograph itself there. What is the better one to have? Well, guys, I gotta tell you honestly, looking at the Rolex Daytona, the pre-ceramic, I gotta say this is a very, very perfect watch. You've got a steel case. I think the steel bezel is actually better. Why would you put a ceramic bezel on when it can be so easily damaged? Isn't steel better than ceramic? I don't know. Call me old-fashioned. Call me whatever you want. I'm the pontiff. I can say what I want. But I got to tell you, the Daytonas themselves, they're highly collectible, highly desirable. In fact, the Daytona is probably the hottest wristwatch in the world. It is one of the hottest wristwatches in the world. Everyone wants one. Very limited supply. Very, very fickle fuckers. Very fickle. Hard to get. And we look at the Daytona. It's wonderfully, very well executed. Nicely done. But I gotta tell you the truth. I think an Explorer 2 and a Daytona, I don't see huge steps up in quality. I don't see the huge step up which justifies the huge price differential for these two pieces. We take a look at the Breguet Type 20. And, you know, there are purists in the Breguet brand who say, well, that's not a real Breguet. A real Breguet's got to be big, huge money. But I don't see it. I think the Breguet Type 20 fits nicely in the range. They've got the marine. They've got some Breguet models which, you know, aren't that on the secondary market. They aren't that much more than the Breguet Type 20. I like the Type 20 not as a cheap Breguet, but as a beautiful chronograph. That's the reason I got my Type 20. I didn't see it as a cheap Breguet. I saw it as a beautiful chronograph. And the Breguet itself, they're highly polished. If you get the bracelet version, highly polished, beautiful. It is really a dress watch which you would expect from Breguet the mark there. It's got typical Breguet hallmarks, coin edged case. It's got the Breguet beautiful numerals, Art Deco numerals, beautiful pushes. The rotating bezel is very nicely done. It's really quite a piece of jewelry, really wonderful thing. It's using a Lamania. See, Breguet itself there uses Lamania. Now, Lamania, hey, Patek used Lamania in many of their watches. The 3970, it uses a Lamania perpetual calendar chronograph. Lamani is a very famous movement maker, and now that Breguet is in the Swatch group there, Lamania supplies a movement for this is a unique movement for the Type 20. It's a well-respected movement, automatic, with a date or a non-date version. Chronograph, automatic chronograph. It is actually, it's not a column wheel. They didn't use a column wheel, which, you know, the column wheel is a big thing. Yes, I grant you, column wheel is a big thing, but it's still a beautifully presented, beautifully made. It's not a Valjoux 7750 movement. This is a Lamani. It's a higher grade movement. It's a flyback chronograph. It's well done there. What do I think of these two? Well, I would have to say the Breguet is more of a dress watch, highly polished, a little bit more delicate, even though it's finely done. It is so finely done. I think the Daytona is more robust. It's more in keeping with the Rolex tool watch theme. The Rolexes themselves, the Daytona is really a fashion watch. It's no longer a tool watch. It's bought by tools instead of being a tool itself. It's bought by tools instead of being the tool watch itself. I think the two watches, the Breguet Type 20, and the Daytona, the steel Daytona pre-ceramic, I think they are both beautiful stunners there. Beautiful stunners. I mean, investment-wise, you'd have to go Rolex Daytona. But from an aesthetic and from a beauty point of view, I think the Breguet's got the edge. I think the Breguet is a more beautiful watch. The heritage of Breguet, just how the whole thing is done with conservatism and pomp and ceremony. I mean, Breguet, the family, they were watchmakers. They moved from France to Switzerland. They then became aircraft manufacturers. Breguet makes aircraft. I mean, what a pilot's watch. Just a fantastic history and legacy to have there. So the Breguet itself, comparing it to the Daytona, yes, if I had a choice, if someone said to me, pick one, Archie, you can have one, and there was a Breguet and there was a steel Daytona, I'd take the bloody steel Daytona. But if you asked me, Archie boy, which one do I like more aesthetically and beauty-wise, I would have to say the Breguet. I think the Breguet is beautiful. The highly polished surface, the coin edging, the rotating bezel, the numerals are to die for. They're absolutely beautiful. They're to die for. So, I gotta say, financially, I'd always pick the Daytona. But with my heart, I would pick the Bregster, the Breguet. Just a beautiful sports chronograph. From a wonderful heritage and lineup, the Breguet Type 20. What a wonderful piece. A wonderful piece for just to enjoy and love and lust after and hoard and possess. I'm Archie Luxury, comparing the Breguet Type 20 to the Rolex Daytona. Tell me what you guys think of that. Please, guys, man cannot live on Google Ads alone. Like, subscribe, and tell your friends about my channel.
Okay.